Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to the exciting installment of Vampire the Requiem. A Requiem for London. The Luftwaffe bombings continue. Sorry, I'm going to stop now.
Wow. That took a turn.
Whenever I read it like that, I kind of go back to my World War II, I'm giving announcements in the talkies. Right, and I don't know why. This evening's scene will take place on the campus of, I can't remember the name. It's the Order-controlled university.
Some college.
Izzy, you're back at college.
Yeah.
Only without the pot and disappointment.
Oh, I'm sure there's pot and disappointment here.
It's just not yours.
Correct.
So, Izzy, you have requested a meeting. I'm currently eating, in case you can't tell. So, Alexander is going to be seated on the outside of an all-night Starbucks, because if I know one thing about colleges, those are pretty much a universal constant.
Yep.
He will wait for Izzy.
All right. Isabel will come in looking relatively nondescript. Just jeans and a t-shirt. Evening.
Good evening, Miss Mora. Would you like to sit down?
I suppose.
Well, we could have this conversation standing up, but then again, I am so ridiculously comfortable.
I wouldn't want to take that away from you. How are you finding the city?
He seems to contemplate that for longer than is strictly necessary. Before he'll say, on the brink.
That's an understatement.
Quite so.
How's your research?
How is my research into what? My apologies.
Just in general.
No. By the way, he spends a blood point. You see his eyes turn slate black. Like, as in, like, have you ever seen Vanta Black?
Uh-huh.
Like that. And he looks you up and down. Is Izzy a Strix?
No. Not that I know of.
Are you possessed by any otherworldly entities?
Not that I know of.
Hooray. He kicks out a chair from the table he's at and he says, please sit down. He then flicks down his sunglasses because he's one of those douchebags who wears sunglasses at night. Now then, my research is going quite well, actually. For the record, on the table in front of him, you'll see a large map of London. And you see that he's drawn lines around the map.
What's all that?
Documenting the ley lines around London.
Ley lines?
Yes.
What for?
I beg your pardon?
What for?
Well, because those who control the ley lines control a great deal of power. Wherever they converge in specific places, it tends to create vaults or edifices of incredible power.
Interesting.
And if you... We're currently sitting in one.
Makes sense.
But then again, it's a very specific gift to be able to see them. Currently, as a matter of fact, one of the ley lines ephemeral flows of power is passing straight through your chest.
Really?
In my line of work, you tend to become an expert in odd things. So, you said you had information for me.
How well acquainted are you with the Revenant situation in the city?
I know that they exist.
Do you know how many?
No.
There are a lot. more than I would think is sustainable because I believe they are being purposely or had been being purposely created. I think it connects back to the Strix.
Oh, good. You're not afraid to use their actual name.
If they want to come for me, they would have already done it, or they'll do it when they see fit.
No, they wouldn't.
No?
Nope. They will come for you when it is they know, categorically, you are at your weakest.
When they see fit. That's what I said.
No, that's different. The Strix are predatory in an odd way. It's not necessarily when they see fit. They can move a lot on instinct and not necessarily based upon pragmatism of higher thought. But they can. It's complicated.
Not overly. So it's not. So they're more animal-like.
They have urges, much like we do.
But is it urges based on sentience or urges based on survival?
Oh, they're entirely sentient. Cognizant, even. Forward thinking and planning. However, sometimes they do give in to their worst impulses. Much akin to us. Wouldn't you agree?
Of course.
Quite so. But you maintain it would not be unusual. Revenants create a very easily plied and malleable force that can overcome even more senior and experienced kindred. So it does not surprise me.
Would something... The yellow eyes.
Yes.
Is there something else that would cause it?
Find what you mean.
I'll go through the situation that I've
just...
So we've been keeping tabs on the revenants that are living in the sewers. I have been hoping to do some research and some study into ways of improving their condition, allowing their blood to be more sustainable, their frenzies to be harder to or easier to control. I went down there and discovered that the one that I believe was making them had been essentially building them into an army of attempting to and basically turning them against each other, destroying and burning people that they claimed were possessed, which is not in and of itself wrong. But what's odd is that this was the person that we thought had been creating them. It just seemed like it all seems like it's part of a greater purpose. Whether it's just to keep them distracted and chaotic enough to use them, or...
Oh, no. It is to keep us distracted, as a matter of fact, because whilst we are looking at the problems rising in the sewers beneath us, we're not looking at what's happening around us.
Well, most people are looking at what's happening around us. Very few actually are worried about the sewers. It's to create chaos. It's absolutely meant to create chaos, but I think there's a greater purpose of it too. And again, it goes back to what is the involvement that they have?
That is an excellent question. I fully anticipate this entire conflict, this war that you seem to like to talk so much about. I fully anticipate that this is because the Strix's activities.
That's definitely a part of it. Said I've been tracking this for months. It's the best I can see is that at the base level of it, I think they're trying to create chaos. The question is, I think, and where really the war comes into is who knew about this, who's behind it, and who's involved with it, or just letting it happen.
Right, so the question now becomes, how do you change it?
I think that all this holy war is just going to add to more nonsense. What needs to happen is figuring out what's at the root of it, taking care of that problem, and then let them all figure their shit out themselves.
You are very succinct in your manner. I will give you that.
It's been a long night.
Right so. So what is it you want from me?
Well, for one thing, there's a revenant that calls herself the Jade Lady. She was somewhat the leader of the revenant groups. They chased her out because they thought she was possessed by the Strix. She may or may not be, but she wasn't acting the way I'd seen other, whether it's because she has more control or it has more control or it's just something else. There's a good chance she is possessed by them. She's currently with the Carthians.
Oh dear. That is problematic, to say the least.
The thing was, she was presenting as much less of a threat than the rabid group that was chasing her. They weren't just going to destroy her, they were going to destroy all of us. These are people I talked to a couple weeks ago. So it seemed the path of least resistance to just keep tabs on her and see what she does. The fact that she was willingly going into the Carthians was interesting.
May I be frank?
Sure.
The Carthians are brain-dead, quasi-illiterate fuck monkeys. Ultimately, if the Strix has infiltrated, it needs to be purged. I think you misunderstand. There is no negotiation here. There is no reason. There is no attempting to corner it, because unless you can end it, it will merely flee.
Which is why I could have tried to attack her. I might have ended up killing her. I might have ended up killing it. Most likely, though, that's not what would have happened. You said yourself it's sentient. So if it's in a position where it feels safe where it is, watching to see what it does seems more advantageous.
Very well. You also, well, there's also the fact that the eyes, as a stigma, last longer than the possession itself. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yes. It wears off after a set period of time, I assume based upon the potency of the individual who's riding the personage, but it is not permanent. It is quite possible that your Jade Lady could have been possessed for quite some time, but now is free of the possession.
Also possible.
Quite so.
Again, and given the choice between the person speaking reasonably and the person actively trying to kill me, I went with her.
This seems like a very... Oh, quite so. But this does seem to me like it is one of their tricks or fabrications. Of course, you would side with the individual who is reasonable. You might even not forgive, but forget certain physical features, shall we say. More so, it is possible that it is a team working in tandem with one another. You understand and follow me?
Could be.
Needless to say, this means I will have to go on a hunt down this Jade Lady.
Like I said, she was going to the head of the Carthians last I saw.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Well, I mean, if you get a private face-to-face with the head of an organization and, well, you want to walk around in a brand new flesh suit. You following where I'm going, dear?
Yes, and that crossed my mind, yes. Hence why I'm telling you all this.
Uh-huh. Wonderful.
Because through this whole thing, the Carthians have also been an entity that was working very closely with these revenants, helping to hide them, but not really doing a whole lot to improve their condition.
It sounds like we need to have a word with the Sworn of the Axe about just clearing out the sewers. If they are as much a threat as you say they are.
I'm just curious what. I want to understand their overall purpose in this city. A few here and there happening by accident, that's understandable. The amount that there are and the way that they're being controlled is... There's a purpose behind it. I want to discover the purpose for it. And I'd rather not just go through and exterminate all of these people if there is a more productive way of dealing with them.
Right. Let me think for a brief moment, if you'd be so kind. Ultimately, you seem to have become attached to these revenants, my dear.
They're just trying to survive, just like everybody else.
Yes. You're in a very precarious situation.
Tell me about it.
Quite so. So how would you like to proceed?
Well, you're able to see them for what they are, right?
Quite so.
So, see what you
I'm
can
also,
see.
I will tell you this as a sign of trust so that you'll understand moving forward. We are also, my bloodline and I, the only ones whom you can always trust because we cannot be possessed.
Interesting.
It goes back to, well, shall we say, ancient pacts and old agreements.
Always does.
So the legends say. So the legends say.
Another favor task, if possible.
Mm.
Those weapons that are made out of... They look like they're made out of shadows.
Yes.
Would it be possible for you to make me one?
Yes. Why?
To use.
I see. No. You misunderstand. I fear you misunderstand me, but maybe I'm just not explaining myself well enough. Why is it you need one?
I had one, but it was broken.
Oh, has my father been whipping them out again?
Yes.
Ah. Yeah.
That
Also,
was
for the record,
thing too. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you continue, please.
When I was being chased by, I think he was a Nosferatu, but I think he was the one that had made the Revenants in the first place. Again, I don't know the overall purpose of it, but I attempted to attack him with it, and he took it and he smashed it. If you were a person, as a person that fights the Strix, he was down there claiming to be trying to purify and get them out. If you were to acquire a weapon like that for that very purpose, why would you destroy it?
Did he know the weapon's true intentions?
He had to.
Oh.
I don't think it was.
But I mean,
I feel like at this point it's common knowledge what it does and what it's for. That's the thing. He was claiming he was trying to get rid of the Strix, but he took my weapon with intention and then destroyed it. Couldn't you find a better use for it if that was your actual goal? That's why I am more inclined to believe her than him. Why would you destroy that?
One could say you are more than likely correct in your assertion. That is disconcerting.
The whole situation is fucky.
Yes. It was suggested that you might be of use in my continued hunt. I'm curious if that is indeed an apt statement.
I'd like to be.
Why?
I want my city back.
The thing is, when you fight the shadow, you end up losing bits of yourself to it, whether you like it or not.
I know that's true.
I'm oddly not in the habit of lying.
This whole thing started because I didn't have the heart to continue torturing a revenant. I instead made him my childer. Not something my sire was overly impressed with, but in doing that, that's when I discovered the connection between the revenants and the Strix, and I saw a vision of them. Apparently, that's not something that happens frequently.
No.
I think it was a connection through their blood. They were somehow involved in the making of these revenants. But it's a puzzle, and it's one I would like to see solved, because I think the alternative to that is the entire city burns.
The city burns. That's almost poetic, you know? Where were we when the city burned? All right. I've recently, as I say, awoken from torpor. So my abilities are still hazy. But I will help you. In the next few weeks, I will be happy to supply you with a new knife, or blade, or whatever it is you'd like. You have a preference?
I'm better at throwing than I am at using a hand-to-hand, but either one's fine.
Right. I'll see what I can do. But, All right.
What kind of terms are you on with the Carthians?
I beg your pardon?
What kind of terms are you on with the Carthians?
Not terrible. I think of them as illiterate fuck monkeys.
Well, I mean, do you say that to their face on the regular basis? If you requested a meeting with them about this, would they be inclined to accept?
It depends. I don't know the leadership of the Carthian movement to be able to answer that question. Possibly. Once again, as I said, I don't know the head of the Carthian movement to be able to answer that question. I might be able to get through the door by invoking my sire's rather dreaded name. But particularly as it pertains to my hunt. But then again, I've also said that I would be happy to supply either the Carthians or the Invictus with arms for their war, depending on who wishes to pay me.
Spoils of war.
Good old-fashioned war profiteering, my dear.
It's a living.
I am a neutral party, after all.
Well, I ask because as I said, it could be that this is a plot to get at the head of the Carthians, in which case said plot is going towards him as we speak. Could also be they're all perfectly genuine. This is all a misunderstanding, and as you say, this woman was possessed and now is free of it, but still holds a remnant, and the head of the revenant creation is just using that as an excuse.
As I said, the axe should just go and clean out the damn sewers if they're that much of a threat.
But I think if you did, I think he's the threat. I think this Nosferatu is the threat.
And quite so, but the city still cannot sustain this revenant population. It'd be kinder to just put them out of their misery.
Well, that's why I'm hoping to be able to find a way to change it. Some of them can be uplifted, but I think there's got to be a better way. I mean, once something is dead, it's dead. If you can find a way to make it better and then use it, it benefits everybody.
You have an oddly honest perspective, which is somewhat refreshing.
I'd rather things be straightforward.
Beg your pardon?
I'd rather things be straightforward.
Quite so.
Never had the patience for mysticism. I'm a scientist.
But science, for example, are you skeptical about the thing I was speaking about earlier with the power of ley lines, etc.?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's better to go into things and be skeptical about them than take that face value. However, some things don't necessarily need to be an argument. And I think there is evidence for what you say. But without further evidence, it's not something I would necessarily promote, but it's not something I'm going to dispute.
An interesting perspective, I'll give you that.
Not necessarily. One of the basics of science is skepticism.
Perhaps I'm just a worse scientist than you are. But then again, our clan also deals highly, or our covenant also deals highly in the realms of the metaphysical. Spirits, monsters, ghosts and goblins.
It's true, but they have rules. There's patterns to it. You can learn things. Those things are based on evidence. They can change and they can obfuscate, but ultimately, everything follows a set of rules.
Quite so. I quite agree. But I do apologize. I have been taking far too much, I feel, of young ladies' valuable time.
Well, I appreciate your help and your insight.
As I said, when one is born to the darkness, one tends to habitate within it. Just be afraid that you don't lose yourself to it. But if you are indeed happy to be at my disposal, you may help me in my hunt if you wish.
Said I'm not on great terms with the Carthians, but I could probably point you in the right direction.
The thing about it is that I think how best to phrase this. How does one best phrase this thing as an entity? Well, I'm not one for sect politics. I have very little interest in it. Much like my sire, I consider myself to be rather apolitical. But to phrase it aptly, we are in a very difficult situation here. that has many different rules and many different changing patterns. If you are indeed the apprentice, I suppose, in the art of, well, the hunt, because to my clan or to my bloodline it is a quasi-religious affair, I'd recommend becoming intimately familiar with the fall of Rome and the fall of certain entities there.
Interesting.
My sire believes that this rot, this taint, runs exceptionally deeply. Possibly even to the heads of the movements itself. But only time will tell. Time is the one thing I like to think of that we have in plentiful supply.
If you play it right.
Quite so. Quite so indeed. What do you make of our other fellows in the... Wait, are you a member of our organization? Are you not? Somewhat.
It's complicated.
Well, if you're going to work for me, you may consider yourself to be on R&D.
That's what I've been doing for years.
If it helps, I'll get you a little badge.
I had a badge.
Was it delightful?
I suppose.
Excellent.
Got me in the building.
Buildings. But yes, needless to say, I'm quite happy to help and to teach. Just be aware of the path it is you're choosing to walk.
I've been aware for a while.
Good. Wonderful.
It's refreshing to have an actual conversation with someone in the Ordo that's productive.
Oh, is this not the norm? I could be sycophantial, ignorant, and mass murderous if you'd like. I am led to understand that is somewhat the norm for our society, for our organization.
Please don't. I have my childer for that.
Wonderful. Yes, I noticed you and Mr. Goodman were not exactly on the best of terms.
Not exactly.
That man is a stain and should have been wiped away. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I'm trying to play nice.
Why?
It's easier.
I suppose. Also deathly dull.
I got enough excitement right now.
How very apt. But yes, is there anything else you would ask or anything else you would know in that case, darling Dr. Morrow?
Nothing comes to mind. I'm guessing you were filled in on everything else that's been going on. Have you been in contact with the heads of the Ordo in the city?
Yes.
I'm just curious if they've told you anything about their current position in this war, what their plans are.
They don't necessarily have any plans, per se. We are a loose affiliation of like-minded individuals as opposed to anything more definite, I suppose. But, yeah. I am... how would I best put this? I don't actually know. Pleased, I suppose, with the Ordo's mentality. Do you personally have a side or stock in this conflict?
I did at one point, but I just, being frank, I don't necessarily care all that much who comes out on top as long as people are allowed to live their lives or unlives.
How very noble.
I think the problem was too many people got... The Invictus are an organization based on power and hierarchy. I think it exists in other organizations, but I think there are perhaps other goals in mind.
I believe that's what they like to portray, yes.
I mean, it's a habitat when you look at it. That's all it is. It's an ecosystem. Kindred are an ecosystem. Everybody has a place. Everybody has a niche. When things become destabilized, eventually it's got to even out somehow. But eventually it's got to hit equilibrium. Just a question of where you end up in that grand scheme of things. But I'll leave you to it then. Feel free to contact me if you have more information or if you need something or anything. I'd like to stay as informed as possible.
I'm sure. I am sure. Very well. It has been a pleasure to meet you, Miss Morrow. I shall bid you good evening.
Evening.
He smiles rather oddly as you stand up, and he'll say, "How very interesting."
Yes. What's interesting?
The way things are. The truths, the lies. How it is they intermix. Good day, Nakamura.
Good night. She'll leave.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we shall draw a line under our scene. Thank you, players, playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another exciting scene in Vampire the Requiem. For London. Have a pleasant evening.